Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Tristana updated complete guide for patch 4.4 onwards. So basically, the kind of new standard ADC kind of build is gonna look something like Bloodthirster as the first item into whatever other items you build depending on what ADC you are. Basically, if you cannot build Bloodthirster as the first item, some champions like I believe like Lucian, MF, like really don't do that well with Bloodthirster first item as far as I know. They're gonna be a lot worse because almost every ADC can't afford to go Bloodthirster first item. So of course before you go for Bloodthirster, you generally go for boots, and generally Gluttonous Greaves is going to be the best one because it gives you AD and it gives you Omnivamp, pretty much what you want. You don't really need the attack speed from the attack speed boots, but you can of course go for defensive boots if you need that. So obviously, Bloodthirster, it gives you like the most AD in the game out of any item at this point. Gives you 55 AD plus 11 to 25 AD based off of your levels. By the time you get it, you're likely a couple of levels up. You're at least like level 6, 7, etc. Probably about there or higher. And it's gonna of course give you a the additional AD. So of course it gives you crit, it gives you the physical vamp. Physical vamp as a first item is really strong, of course. And then you also get 15% attack speed, which is more or less what makes it really good / viable as a first item, because you also get some kind of attack speed. And then, of course, this only works when you're above 50% health, but that's majority of the time if you're an ADC. And then after you go for Navori Quick Blades, obviously this is going to give you more AD, ability haste, crit, and of course you're going to get a lowered cooldown whenever you crit. So this is of course mainly it's actually, to be honest, it's kind of for all your abilities. Like if you don't get a W reset, it's good for your W. You're gonna get your Q pretty much permanently on, because when you get it as a second item, you crit like half of the time, and your Q is pretty much going to be always off cooldown, so it's a permanent attack speed steroid, and your E is kind of like your main point in damage, especially the earlier stages of the game. So if you get your E out more often, you're technically going to do more damage, which is of course also amazing. And then you of course go for Infinity Edge as your next item. This is of course going to give you that big boost in terms of crit damage, as well as giving you of course more AD and crit. And of course, Mole Reminder as our last crit item obviously gives you the Armor Pen, gives you the Grievous Wounds. So for your last item, it's of course really flexible. So ADCs pretty much are going to have these couple of options as their last item. First one, pretty obvious one, is GA, gives you AD, gives you armor, and of course gives you the Resurrection passive as well. Obviously, this one is mainly for the Resurrection passive. You can technically kind of take it for the armor as well, but we all know GA is really for the Resurrection. The other options you have are quite a bit. So the main offensive option you have is going to be like Runaan's Hurricane. This is going to, of course, give you the split attack that's going to allow you to attack 3 people at one time. And obviously, by the time you get to your last item, you're level 15, you have the longest range out of anybody in the game, and you can basically just blast people down. So this kind of does work. Of course, you can still crit, and it also gives you AD, so that is going to be pretty amazing. A more defensive option is Sterix. Sterix of course gives you max health, increases your base AD, as well as of course gives you that lifeline shield. Then if you're against magic damage, you can go for 2 options. Firstly, you're going to go for Maw of Mormortius. This one gives you a whopping 55 AD, 45 magic resist, and also gives you the Demon Bane shield, which is going to be able to absorb quite a bit of magic damage. Now, for your full-on defensive option, you can also technically go for Spirit Visage. Now, you can see that Spirit Visage, the main difference between this and Maw, of course, is a more offensive kind of option, because it gives you, of course, the attack damage as well as the ability haste. But with this, instead of getting attack damage, you're getting 350 max health. Obviously, this is going to be a lot more defensive. You also get, of course, the health regen, more ability haste, and it, of course, increases your healing by 30%. And of course, shielding, if your support shields you, but the healing increase is of course going to work in conjunction with Bloodthirster and Gluttonous Greaves, which already heals you by a lot. So this could be a very major pickup. And then for the runes, of course, we have Lethal Tempo for the attack speed. Since we technically have no attack speed items, we only have Navori for the Q attack speed, so I like to go for Lethal Tempo for the attack speed. Brutal, of course, for the unhit damage on champions. Giant Slayer or Coup de Grace, depending on how tanky the enemy team is. Bloodline for even more healing, and either Bone Plating for the anti-burst, or you could go for Overgrowth for the health. And finally, I like to take Flash together with Exhaust, because Tristana, again, is someone who likes to 1v1 people, and whenever you have a ADC like that, you generally want to take Exhaust over something like Ghost. Of course, Ghost is still viable as well, but that's pretty much it for the loadout. Now let's move on to talking about the gameplay. Okay, so now hopping into the gameplay, as usual, of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will be sure to address them. Okay, so let's start right off. Now, Tristana in the early game generally does better with an engaged support, although she still works really well with enchanters because in the later stages of the game, she actually becomes a very strong hyper carry. But the main reason why you like to play with engagers at the in general is pretty much because you can get leads by going in at level 2, level 3, and level 5. So you're really strong at these points, and mostly these are going to result in kills, which can snowball the game. Of course, not every single time, but majority of the time you can get kills to snowball the game, and you can get a hit. And if you get a hit in the early game, your mid-game power trough is not going to be so obvious, which Tristana does have, a lot like Caitlyn. So that's kind of why you generally prefer to play with engagers, but don't get me wrong, playing with enchanters are still fine. So here you can see we hit level 2, and here we're looking to go in, because they're playing we're playing an all-in lane versus a poke lane. Now here, I go in on Bran, nearly pop him, but he flashes out. Ezreal tries to trade damage. Leona has to flash away. I exhausted Ezreal to try to stop him from killing Leona, but unfortunately now I get exhausted in return. Bran has taken the fruit, and I do end up dying. So, the major mistake that happened here is basically that me and Leona were not in sync. Now, if you guys notice, Leona EQ'd, and I only managed to jump on top of Bran when the stun was already more than halfway done, which then allowed Bran enough time to escape. If I got just one more auto down, I believe the Bran would have died. So, honestly, that was, of course, a mistake on my part for going in too late. Also, kind of a mistake on my part for not being in the correct position. So, overall, it's kind of mostly my fault here that, we ended up dying instead of getting a kill. And pretty much, we pretty much blew all sums in the bot lane except for my flash. Now, the only slight advantage I have now is the fact that I actually have flash, whereas the enemy team has no sums at all. So now, honestly, even though we actually died, we still have a lot of kill pressure because, of course, we have Leona who can go all in and CC them. We still have Tristana's insane early game damage, and Ezreal getting a single kill in the early game. It's not like you're giving a kill to a Draven or like even basically any other ADC. Ezreal isn't really strong in the early stages of the game at all. Speaking of which, here we're gonna hop over. We misclick the E instead of the W, but it's okay because we can just auto attack him down to finish off the kill, and we accidentally E the buff instead. Anyways, here Leona gets a good engage onto Bran. We're hopping over, positioning it so that we ult him towards away from the tower, but turns out it wasn't even needed because the ult damage is actually enough to kill him. So overall, disaster turning into not so much of a disaster. So we do manage to pick up 2 quick kills there, and pretty much that death in the early stages of the game is not going to be too bad. Now you can see that me and Ezreal currently have the same KDA, but obviously we are going to have more gold because we're farming the waves and such while he is dead. So overall, it's a pretty net positive trade for us. I'm not sure what Ezreal was doing in the mid lane at that point in time, but definitely was not the right idea. So here we can go into our Gluttonous Greaves and our Vamp Scepter, which is of course going to give us an insane amount of Omnivamp as well as, not Omnivamp, Physical Vamp, as well as giving us a decent amount of AD. So now, obviously we're not even strong in the lane. We're obviously looking for a fight because playing an all-in lane versus a poke lane, you have to try to all-in when you're high health. Otherwise, the poke lane is just going to poke you down and you're not going to have a fun time. Speaking of which, here goes Leona. Chain CC on the Ezreal. Leona tanks up the tower. I accidentally auto the tower once, but we are able to finish off the kill. Now Leona runs into Volibear, has to flash the wall. Volibear ults to follow, and here I'm using my ult to CC the Volibear, and I'm trying to burst him down. I try to hop on his head to pop my bomb, but turns out that probably wasn't the best idea. I probably should have just hopped out instead of hopping on his head. But anyways, that does work. Here anyways, a disaster happens because errant Ezreal ult manages to clip me on the side as I'm trying to recall, and we end up dying. So that is, of course, a little bit tragic. Of course, Ezreal ult does do a very decent amount of damage majority of the game, so can never really underestimate that. So pretty unfortunate situation here, but honestly, not much we could have done to avoid it unless we, expect the Ezreal ult and we are ready to dodge it. Otherwise, we have no jump, no flash, No, nothing, so we are always gonna die to that Ezreal ult so long as he actually hits it at the correct spot. Of course, you can see that he only managed to hit me, and Leona actually managed to recall, so he didn't exactly get the perfect spot, but good enough for him to net the kill. So here we're now back into the lane. We're just going to clear out the minions again. Brand is missing, or there he is actually, but he was missing just now in the lane when we killed Ezreal, so I suspected he could have been roaming again. Turns out that's not the case. Anyways, here we just gotta kind of sit tight and just farm, wait for an opportunity to go in. Ezreal is now missing, and this is Ezreal. You know that Ezreal is missing because Brand's support item is not lining up, which basically means that Ezreal's not around. Now Ezreal is here because you can see that Brand's support item has lit up. So now you know that actually Ezreal is here. The support item is a dead giveaway as to whether the ADC is here or not. Because if it doesn't light up, it just means that they're not here. They're not hiding in the bush or anything like that. They simply are not here. So anyways, here once again we're going to push in the lane. Enemy team takes the dragon, but we can see multiple members of the enemy team all in the top side. So we're not too scared here. We're just going to go ahead and just get some tower plates. But of course we need to leave pretty soon, so we get like a couple of tower plates. Morgana comes over, we buffer the jump to immune her root, or not immune, but we still managed to hop away anyways. Here the bomb once again goes on the minion because Morgana was slightly out of range, so we are going to have to back off. Morgana tries to go for the root, but not quite in range unless she chooses the flash root, which would not be an intelligent idea because she doesn't have lethal. So here we complete our Bloodthirster. Now this is a huge obviously huge power spike. As I mentioned just now, Bloodthirster gives you the most AD out of any item in the game, so this is a super duper huge power spike because it's going to give you a lot of AD, and of course you get physical vamp as well, so your dueling power is going to be amazing. And probably the next, I mean honestly you spike on every item, but the next spike with Navori, you're going to get of course insane cooldown reduction, permanent attack speed, and then you get IE, it's pretty much spike on every item. So here we get gifted a Herald from Lee Sin, which basically means the Herald's going to take down first tower, and actually it's not going to take down first tower because Sion gets it before the Herald, but it's going to take down the tower, and we're going to get the goal. Here, Brand gets caught out, Lee Sin kicks him, and he does end up dying. Here we try to follow onto the Ezreal, but Ezreal has exhaust for Lee, and we can't quite catch up in time. So here we're just going to ult the Volibear away. Volibear gets the ult on us. Lee Sin goes down, Leona, really low HP, goes down as well, uses the last bits of her life to get the CC. Unfortunately, we end up dying as well, and it's now only Lux remaining. Manages to get the ult on both Ezreal and Morgana, roots the Ezreal and manages to finish him off. Morgana stuck in 1 HP now, obviously cannot contest Lux. So overall, we end up trading 3 for 2, which is of course not the most ideal situation, but at least Lux managed to get some kills back. Or a kill back, because I got the other kill back. So overall, you can see that in this match, we are dying quite a bit, but we're also getting quite a number of kills. Now, obviously, dying this much is not ideal. However, you can see in terms of goal, we're actually second highest in the game. The highest is Sion. Obviously, this is mainly because he has Hullbreaker and Yomu. So his main game plan here is basically he's going to int for towers. And the reason I know this is, number one, he's been doing it already at top lane, but number two, I actually had this Sion in my game previously, and he literally inted for towers the whole game. He actually got a hit, like 3-0, and the moment he hit like 3-0, he just started inting for towers non-stop. He just ults down the lane, ints for the tower, and does that non-stop. Now you can see he's now in my lane, trying to go for my tower, and you can see he's doing a lot of damage because he has that lethality build. So he's going to do insane amounts, and just look at that, like 1 Q is like about half my health. Now thankfully I have Bloodthirster, so I'm going to be able to lifesteal back a lot. Now here I tried to ult him away to prevent him from getting the Demolish proc, but unfortunately it does not work. Here he's really low, so I'm actually chasing him, and he is forced to flash away, so at least we got the flash, and you can see that we're actually at full HP now because Bloodthirster is OP. So anyways, we're going to clear out the next wave. And honestly, I'm kind of stuck here. I flashed the Sion out because I think that that's going to hit, and if it does, I'm definitely dead because he's going to full combo me and I'm going to die. So we're not going to take any chances. We're just going to flash the Sion out, and now we're going to back. So basically backing here means we're going to concede the tower to him, but honestly Sett should be the one defending the Sion and not me, because Sett can actually try to 1v1 the Sion and hold him off, whereas I really cannot. Alright, I can, but it's kind of a waste of resources to send your ADC to stop the split pusher. That really doesn't make sense when I should be with my team to DPS. Anyways, here Sion, as expected, does pick up the tower. We're just going to go down to pick up the wave, as well as get the lifesteal, of course. But yeah, so Sion is going to be a menace for the rest of the match. But on the bright side, we actually picked up our Navori Quick Blades on that back. So we actually are really strong now. Obviously, Tristana spikes on every item, because every item gives you a lot of value. So here with the Navori and the Bloodthirster, we're pretty much going to have our Q up permanently, which basically means a permanent attack speed buff. So don't hesitate to just pop your Q anytime you want. So here you can see I'm actually pinging to defend the top tower. Yeah, you can see I'm pinging to defend the top tower. Actually, you can't see on the map. You can see it on my character model, but for some reason you can't see me pinging on the map to protect the tower. But anyways, I'm pinging on the map to protect the tower. Set gets the idea, and he does do that. Here, really beautiful engage by Leona. I'm going to out volley bear away again. Then we finish off the Morgana. Get some distance from the volley bear, then finish him off. Ezreal's not really low, so we're gonna hop in on him. Unfortunately, we don't quite manage to get him. I'm sorry, that's Brand, not Ezreal. So Ezreal manages to escape, and we manage to get the Brand. So here, Sion is now really overextended, and we have to try to collapse in on him. But ends up Set actually picks up the kill on Sion by himself, which is amazing. And he is really low though, so here we're just trying to help him out so that Sion doesn't get any free tower damage. Because even when Sion's dead, he can still just get free tower damage just by using the zombie mode to attack the tower, which is obviously not what we want. So we're just gonna help him get rid of the Sion, and now we're just going to pretty much blast the whole minion wave. I think we actually crit on every auto attack there, so that's kind of pretty lucky, I guess. So here in terms of goal, you can see that now I'm only slightly behind the Sion, and I'm way ahead of everyone else on my team and the enemy team, so we're way ahead of the curve, and we are, of course, ready to, you know, deal some damage. So here we're obviously looking for a fight. Looks like a lot of people are posturing in the mid lane, so a fight might break out, but turns out that nothing too much really happens. In the meanwhile, we're just going to farm the jungle. Lee Sin comes over to take the big raptor. Excuse me. So we'll have to settle for the small ones. And here's Sion, you can see he's ulting down top lane again, going for the tower. Set, I believe, actually blocks the ult. Yeah, it does take a bit of damage from that ult, but you can see Set is a tanky boy, so you know, that's why Set should be the one stopping him. And here Lux goes over to help to eliminate him. Now this is fine because there are no objectives up on the map now, so if we commit resources to stopping the Sion, we don't really lose out on a lot. The problem with this happens when there are objectives up on the map. Here I'm going to flash the Ezreal out because I think that that will kill me, so I'm just going to get away. But if, for example, Baron is up and he pushes down bot lane, and if we send like 2 people to stop him, the enemy team is going to have a lot easier time to take Baron, so that's, you know, going to be not very ideal. So here I'm going to pick up the fruit, and you can see that now with the Bloodthirster, I can just try to lifesteal off a wave if possible. Morgana gets to a really aggressive position. I'm just going to hop in on her. Her shield manages to immune the Leona out, but you can see here just my auto attacks and my E damage onto 3 people is able to net me a kill onto Brand. My team is kind of taking care of the rest while I lifesteal off of the minions. Turns out my team doesn't really even need me. I'm just going to clear the ward. Volibear actually hops the wall to me, so I'm able to actually finish him off to pick up the kill. In the meantime, Sion is actually split pushing, so here I'm pinging to defend. And Set initially started recalling, so I thought he was going to defend, but he decides to push mid instead. And while we take Baron, so ends up Leona of all people goes to defend. We 3 pick up the Baron, and Set is actually pushing mid. So this is actually not so bad because Sion by himself can't really do so much damage, in a sense that we traded. You know, he hasn't even gotten the tower, but we got the Baron, the mid tower, and another mid tower, whereas he has only gotten 1 tier 2 tower. So overall, it's a positive trade. So we managed to get a tier 2 tower, tier 1 tower, as well as a Baron. So overall, we're not going to complain about that. Here we're trying to help the Lee Sin actually take the buff, but unfortunately the bomb explosion does a little bit more damage than I thought, and we end up taking the buff instead. Of course, I did apologize in the chat. No reason to steal the buff from the jungler because you can always share. Anyways, here we're back to pick up the IE, as well as we're now going for the Last Whisper, and the Last Whisper is pretty much to take down the Volibear and even the Sion a little bit faster, because Volibear is really, really tanky. We're having a very hard time getting rid of him, so Last Whisper is going to help us out quite a bit. So here we're just, you know, we're just clearing whatever we can, clearing the Raptors, clearing the minion wave, just clearing, you know, everything that we see. Obviously, you want to get as much farm as possible. Now we're at 13k gold. You can see that Sion is keeping up in terms of gold. This split push strategy is pretty effective. Here we're trying to get rid of the Morgana, which we do now. You know, at this point, 3 crit items, just running them down at this point. We ult the Volibear away from the fruit to prevent him from getting the healing. And we are able to finish off the kill on him. Now Sion is now left defending his tower, but we are not going to allow him to do that. We're going to just hop on in. We're even going to put the bomb on the tower because, no point wasting it on Sion when he's going to die anyways. And we're just going to continue on pushing mid as well as top lane. Both waves are crashing in perfectly at the same time. The Infernal Dragon is alive, but both teams have already got one dragon, so it really doesn't matter at this point. And the whole enemy team did. We can actually try to end the game here, and we actually barely managed to end the game before the entire enemy team, comes up or out of the fountain. And yeah, there we have it. So I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.